Welcome to Vanran10 on sports. So what we'll discuss today is the Denver Broncos and their second preseason game. I'll discuss a little bit about the first preseason game. Not super impressed with the second effort. The first effort was great. We beat the Bears 22-0. So I'm very impressed with that. The defense looked sharp. The defense looked intense. The quarterbacking situation wasn't dreadful. It still left us with a lot of question marks. Everybody had pretty much a mediocre game. No big deal. I think the stats probably read, I think it was more, I'm going to refer to my notes. The quarterbacks basically combined for, I think I've got these numbers way wrong. They combined for about 23 for 32, roughly 264 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Not bad. Any one quarterback having that kind of a game, you should probably win a game. You should probably score 22, 24 points, which is what they did. The defense looked on fire in that game. That's terrific. That's the way you expect the number one defense, and basically the defense that won the NFL title. That's how you expect them to look. Now we'll touch a little bit on the San Francisco 49er game. Now, the problem in Denver right now is that we've lost Peyton Manning. We let Brock Osweiler go in free agency. Neither of these things, to me, are that big of a deal. I don't really know if Brock Osweiler was the answer or if he is the future of the Broncos franchise. He was a second-round pick, not a first-round pick, and you're not going to pay a guy that only played 6 games. You're not going to pay him $18 million a year. Oh, wait, yes, you are if you're Houston, whose quarterbacking situation has been dreadful pretty much their entire existence. Although David Carr could have been a pretty good quarterback, but at the time it was an expansion team, and they had no offensive line to block for him, and he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Now, we go into this season with Mark Sanchez. Everybody knows Mark Sanchez. Don't really need to explain anything about him. Trevor Siemian, 7th-round pick out of Northwestern University. He's a guy with a pretty decent arm, not real vocal, a pretty quiet guy in the, leadership-wise, he's probably more like an Eli Manning, leads more by example and maybe just giving you a dirty look or something, but not super fiery on the field. And then you have the rookie, Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch, of course, is who basically they're banking on to be the future of this franchise. So in the first game, everybody pretty much played decent across the board. Excuse me. Played decent across the board. The quarterbacking was decent. It was better than Peyton Manning's diminishing returns. Maybe not as good as Brock Osweiler at his best, but serviceable when the defense holds the other team to 0 points. You don't really have to be a stellar offense. You could put Trent Dilfer in there right now and you would have won that game. But the problem now becomes the second game, where Trevor Siemian started. So Trevor Siemian starts this game, 7th-round pick, Northwestern. They give him the chance. The first couple of drives, he looked pretty good. He looked like he might be the guy that steals this starting job. And if you're a Bronco fan, that's what you kind of want to see. You want to see the young guy, kind of maybe take this over and show some ownership of this. Well, he made a horrible play on about the 3rd or 4th drive. He threw a pick 6. And, he telegraphed this pass all the way. Easy play for the safety to read. Came up, ran, got it, took it to the house. That seemed to shake his confidence. His next drive, they tried to run the ball a couple of times to get him settled down. Didn't seem to work. He seemed to be shaken by making a mistake. In the NFL, they always tell you got to forget the last drive, no matter what it was. If it's good or if it's bad, you got to forget it, because this is a new drive this time. You've got to have terrible memory. Just forget it. He did not. He obviously looked like a man who is trying now too hard to not make a mistake. So now they bring in Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez comes in, first drive, looks pretty decent. Second drive comes in, then he fumbles. Now don't quote me on the second drive thing. I don't know if he really played as much as he was supposed to. But he came in, they were down in the red zone, he got sacked, he fumbled the ball. Well, Sanchez, that's what he's been known for, the turnover. He'll make some good plays, and then he'll make the bad play. And the thing is, in the NFL, you can handle a 70-30 to good to bad ratio and still be pretty dang good. But he's like a 50-50 guy. He makes a good play, and then he makes a horrible play. You can't have that in the NFL. I don't care how good your defense is. If you keep putting the other team's offense with a short field, you're going to have a long day. That defense will wear out no matter how good they are. The 85 Bears defense, or even that Ravens defense from the early 2000s, would have had trouble with a defense that turns the ball over a ton, or with an offense that turns the ball over a ton. So basically Sanchez, the Broncos get him the ball back very quickly. The running back for the San Francisco 49ers fumbles the ball. The Denver Broncos recover it. They give Sanchez basically the ball back where he coughed it up. Well, what does Sanchez do? He fumbles again. The man just likes to take the ball and throw it on the ground. I'm determined that that's what he loves to do more than anything else. The ball is in his hands, and he thinks somehow it shouldn't be in his hands. It should be laying on the grass for somebody else to pick up. He does it wonderfully, but he's missing a whole point of NFL football. He's supposed to be completing passes to his teammates, giving the ball to the ball when it touches the ground is bad, Sanchez. It's bad. Don't stop doing that. So now now Sanchez is making bad mistakes, and you can see poor Gary Kubiak on the sideline keeps doing these things. He keeps going, oh. You can tell he's frustrated. He knows he has no clear number one quarterback. And the old saying is, if you have three quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And that's where the Broncos sit right now. Now, Paxton Lynch comes in the second half. Paxton Lynch, to me, looked phenomenal. He was playing with the third-team offensive line. He was playing with the third-team wide receivers. And he made plays. I was very impressed with Paxton Lynch. Not as much as I've been impressed with Dak Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys in the preseason. But I was impressed with how Paxton Lynch handled himself. He made mistakes, but he didn't really let it rattle him. This is a rookie, and he's got pretty good composure for a rookie. And he was playing with third-string offensive linemen. Most of those offensive linemen aren't even going to make the team. Those are the guys that he had protecting his backside. And they were doing an awful job of it. Most of those guys that you saw playing that second half of the offensive line, we may keep the guy that we picked in the third or fourth round, McGovern, but everybody else is pretty much probably not going to make the team. That Schofield is bad. Cut him. He should be gone. He is not even a serviceable offensive lineman. So, as it sits, Paxton Lynch came in. He made a couple of nice passes. He evaded the rush. He has great athleticism for a big guy. He's like 6'5" to 6'7", somewhere in that range. He's a big dude. He threw the ball pretty well. I'm going to refer to my notes again because I don't memorize this stuff because I'm not a professional. But Lynch went 15 to 26 for 113 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the interception that he threw, it was at the end of the game. He was trying to make something happen. I don't fault him for that. He was trying to lead them on the winning drive. He kind of airmailed it a little bit, but he was trying to put it in a place where only the receiver could catch it, and it kind of got over his fingertips. Of course, the old adage is if you can touch it, you should catch it. This looked like it would have been difficult, and the guy he was throwing to is, not exactly going to make the team either. Maybe if that's Demaryius Thomas, that ball gets caught. Maybe if it's Virgil Green, who showed really well in the preseason, maybe he catches it. Emmanuel Sanders, a little too short. That ball would have, sailed over his head. But as it sits, if you're going to ask me who I think should start the third and the most crucial preseason game for all NFL teams, which is the third one, I say you hand it over to Paxton Lynch. What do you got to lose? Sanchez and Simeon, neither one of them have really done anything that says they should be the starter. Put Paxton Lynch in there with the starters. Let's see what he can do. Why not? You did, Mariota Mariota and Jameson had relatively decent success last year. Played pretty well, learned a lot. Now, they're not quarterbacking Super Bowl champions or defending Super Bowl champions, but I think with as good as our defense is, I think that Paxton Lynch could make a pretty good impact. And I think the starting offensive line with Okung and, some Brylo can stay healthy, and the pieces that they picked up in the offseason, if he can stay healthy, if that line can stay healthy, I think the running game is better. I think that the West Coast offense works a lot better. I'm going to touch a little bit. I think I'm going to stop on the offensive side in the quarterbacking situation to talk a little bit about the defense last night. That was a lackluster effort. They played phenomenally well against the Bears, against the San Francisco 49ers, who are not a very good team. They let Christian Ponder, they let Briscoe, I think is the guy that was the second stringer. They made these two look like rock stars, and even Blaine Gabbert looked pretty good. The defense didn't seem to have the same fire as they normally do, and they had Von Miller out there and Chris Harris. They had a few more of the starters going. So as it sits, I did not like the lack of fire from that defense. What I'm hoping is this is kind of a kick in the teeth, and Wade Phillips and Kubiak will kind of use this as a teaching lesson. It's like, hey, just because you won last year doesn't mean you can coast through this season and they're going to hand you another one of those Vince Lombardi trophies. It's time to get serious again and realize that everybody's going to be gunning for you all season. I know what a lot of people are saying. Bronco fans are going to be very forgiving of this season no matter what happens. That may be true. Bronco fans, we love our football team, but I still think that you've got to show that we're going to go in the right direction. You've got to show that this team is not going to have a Super Bowl hangover. We want to see a repeat. I know in the NFL it's extremely tough to repeat. You know it's tough to repeat. Everybody knows it's tough to repeat. But the effort last night was pretty lackluster. In fact, I would say really, other than maybe Virgil Green and Paxton Lynch, there wasn't a lot of shining stars last night. Maybe, you're talking the defense against the Bears had 7 sacks. This time they had 1. So it's disconcerting a little bit, but we'll wait till the third game because that's where you start to put a little bit more of yourself out there on the plate. Also, though, Bronco fans, don't worry. This is preseason. So I trust Kubiak, I trust Elway, I trust Wade Phillips. Maybe they'll see something in the tape that, myself is not going to see because I'm not an expert. I don't coach. I don't even pretend to know as much as those guys. Those guys have dozens of years of NFL experience, and I trust what they're doing. They won us the Super Bowl last year. I trust you, John. I trust you, Gary. I trust Wade. I trust that front office. So Bronco fans, don't worry too much. I mean, we didn't look super good, but Paxton Lynch might be our guy. I think we're going to be okay with him. That being said, I think I'll cut this video. I try to keep them under 15 minutes so that you don't have to sit here for an hour looking at this. But we'll just say goodbye. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, all that. If you want to comment, go ahead. That's up to you. And to the troops, past, present, and future, thank you for the freedom.